What's there to worry about with eggs? Everyone says eggs are great for the brain. It's a sentence I've heard hundreds of times from patients, from family members, even from people who believe they know everything about healthy eating. And oddly enough, it's also the first line in many of the emergency cases I've seen unfold in the early morning. Not because of the eggs, but because of how they were eaten. Imagine this. You're reading a book to your grandson, your voice steady. He's listening, wide-eyed and focused. Then suddenly, you can't speak. Your right arm feels heavy. Your vision blurs. Your body no longer feels like your own. You want to call for help, but nothing comes out. Everything familiar vanishes in a matter of seconds. It sounds dramatic, I know. But let me be clear. This happens more often than you think. Not just to smokers. Not just to those with severe high blood pressure, but to seemingly healthy grandparents, those who walk every morning, eat carefully, take their meds on time. And yet, they still have strokes. Many of them, in fact, right after a breakfast that seemed perfectly healthy. A couple of fried eggs, some cheese, a slice of ham, and sometimes nothing but a cup of coffee. Eggs are not the villain here, I'll say that clearly. But the body after 60 is different. Your blood vessels are less elastic. Your blood pressure naturally spikes in the morning, right after waking. Your liver and kidneys slow down. Your blood becomes thicker, especially when eggs are paired with butter, processed meats, salt, or cheese. And if you're on blood pressure meds, blood thinners, or hormone treatments, that same breakfast might quietly become the last straw for a circulatory system already stretched thin. What's heartbreaking is how few people realize it, because it all happens silently. No pain, no warning, until one side of your body won't move, until your familiar voice becomes nothing but slurred whispers. And the most painful part? It's almost always preventable. In the next section, I'll walk you through 5 common mistakes older adults make with eggs, and the simple changes that can help protect your clarity, your memory, and the independence you value more than anything. Sunday morning. The kitchen fills with that familiar aroma, lard sizzling in the pan, the rich scent of bacon and melting butter, golden eggs gently flipped over. It's a comforting scene, one that stirs memories of old times, when breakfast was an act of care, a tradition, a simple pleasure. We've all said it, life needs a little flavor. But sometimes, the things we love most are the very things quietly harming us from the inside out. One of my patients, Raymond, a 71-year-old man living in the suburbs, was a perfect example. He gardened weekly, still drove himself around, had a sharp mind, and especially loved his classic breakfasts. For 30 years he fried his eggs in bacon grease, the way my wife used to make it, he'd say, smiling warmly. But one morning, after that same breakfast, he stood up and collapsed. He couldn't speak. His right arm wouldn't move. He had suffered a major stroke, and from that day on, he was never able to walk on his own again. What breaks my heart is that the warning signs were there. We just didn't see them. His MRI revealed narrowed blood vessels in the brain, chronically inflamed and gradually clogged with plaque. The culprit? Not overeating, but the daily ritual of pouring hot fat into a pan, then pouring eggs into the fat. The issue isn't with eggs themselves. Eggs are rich in choline and protein, great for memory and focus when eaten correctly. But when you fry them in animal fat, especially pork lard, butter, or bacon grease, you're creating what I call a saturated fat bomb. These fats don't simply pass through your body. They cling to your blood vessel walls, thicken your blood, and slow circulation, especially dangerous in the morning when blood pressure naturally rises. Older bodies can no longer bounce back from these fat shocks the way they once did. Aging brain vessels, already fragile and stiff, become prime targets. Just a little extra grease each morning, paired with a natural BP spike, can trigger what medicine calls a silent stroke. But for the person who suffers it, it's a life-altering event. So if you're wondering, how can I eat eggs more safely? Here's the good news. You have better options. Try boiling or steaming your eggs, no oil, no fat. Add a sprinkle of pepper, or pair them with omega-3 rich plant spreads or avocado. And instead of using grease to make your eggs softer, let leafy greens, oatmeal, or whole grain toast soften your blood vessels first. Yes, a breakfast with less grease might make you miss those old flavors. But losing the ability to walk, that's a kind of regret that lingers far longer. Everyone has a meal tied to memory. For many older adults, it's the sound of sausage sizzling in the pan, the smell of golden brown ham crisping up beside two sunny-side-up eggs. A classic American breakfast, warm, complete, and so familiar that no one ever questions it. But sometimes that very familiarity is what dulls our sense of caution. I remember a patient named Eleanor, a 69-year-old woman from Kentucky. She walked every morning, tended to her rose garden, cooked for her husband, and never thought she was doing anything harmful. Each morning, she ate 2 boiled eggs, a slice of bread, and 2 pieces of ham or sausage. It's been her routine for years, her daughter told me, as she handed me Eleanor's food journal. Eleanor had a stroke right there in her kitchen. The stroke paralyzed the entire right side of her body. Her speech became slurred and unrecognizable. The cost of that simple, balanced breakfast turned out to be a wheelchair and months of painful rehab with little promise of recovery. You might ask, 2 slices of sausage, how bad can it be? The problem lies in what's hidden inside those slices. Processed meats like sausage, ham, and bacon contain staggering amounts of sodium. Just 2 slices can easily exceed half the daily recommended sodium intake for older adults. Worse yet, they're loaded with nitrates preservatives that keep the meat looking fresh and shelf-stable, but also silently inflame your blood vessels, making it easier for cholesterol to stick and blood clots to form. What's more concerning is how quietly all of this happens. There's no pain, no warning signs, until one morning you simply can't stand up. When combined with eggs, especially fried eggs, this meal becomes a perfect storm of saturated fat, salt, and chemical preservatives. The blood thickens, the vessels tighten, blood pressure spikes, and your brain doesn't get the oxygen it needs. And it all unfolds during the first hour of your day, when your circulatory system is already under pressure, due to your body's natural biological rhythms. The danger isn't in one meal. It's in the silent repetition, every day, for years. And one day, like Eleanor, you may find yourself in a hospital because of something that once felt small and harmless. If you still want that warm, comforting breakfast feeling, try taking one small step at a time. Swap out the ham for slices of avocado, a handful of steamed spinach, or some black beans. You don't need to cut everything out, just replace it wisely. Memories belong in your heart. They don't need to be preserved with salt and fat on your breakfast plate. don't let a piece of sausage be the last thing you taste before losing the ability to speak to your grandchild. There are things we consider harmless, simply because they've become so familiar. A pinch of salt on your eggs to bring out the flavor. A bit of cheese for that creamy, savory touch. That's what makes it taste good, many people say, and I don't disagree. But I also can't forget the story of Walter, a 71-year-old retired teacher from Michigan who once thought the same. Walter didn't come to my clinic because of a major stroke. He came in because of unusual dizziness in the morning. He was occasionally confused, mixing up names of old students, losing track of his thoughts mid-sentence. His wife thought it was just aging. But I wasn't so sure. After running neurological tests and an MRI, the results revealed that Walter had experienced multiple small strokes, mini-strokes, in recent months. Not big enough to knock him down, but enough to slowly damage areas of the brain responsible for memory and speech. We sat down together and reviewed his lifestyle. No smoking, no alcohol. He even walked his dog every morning. But one thing stood out: his daily breakfast. Fried eggs, topped with cheese, sprinkled with salt. Simple, tasty, time-saving, and also the quiet habit pushing his brain's blood vessels to their breaking point. Cheese, especially processed varieties, is loaded with saturated fat and sodium. Even a small portion can contain 200 to 400 milliliters of sodium. Add a pinch of salt or a squeeze of common condiments, and you've already consumed over half the recommended daily sodium limit before 9 a.m. Salt spikes blood pressure. Saturated fats thicken the blood and accelerate plaque buildup. And all of it happens during the most vulnerable window of the day, early morning, when your body is still shifting from a resting state to full activity. For older adults, this kind of pressure on the circulatory system can be dangerous. It's one reason strokes often occur within minutes of waking up. The body isn't fully ready, and yet it's suddenly hit with a flood of sodium, fat, caffeine, or sugar. The brain's blood vessels stretch and squeeze under pressure until they finally give way. Walter spent months in speech therapy. He once told me, "I never thought a little cheese could cause this much damage." But the truth is, it wasn't just a little. It was a little, repeated every day, for decades. If you're still starting your mornings with eggs and a gooey layer of cheese, I'm not asking you to quit cold turkey, but try cutting it in half, or swap the cheese for a low-sodium plant-based spread, or some steamed vegetables. You can still enjoy your food without hurting what you can't see. Because memory loss doesn't happen in a day. It fades one seemingly harmless bite of cheese at a time. A quick, simple breakfast, 2 boiled eggs, a cup of black coffee, no toast, no fruit, no veggies, no grains. Sound familiar? I've met many older adults who choose this kind of breakfast, believing that low carb, low sugar equals healthy. They avoid sweets and fried foods, eat eggs to feel full, and confidently tell themselves they're eating clean. But there's one thing they often forget, or were never told clearly: fiber. Let me tell you about Martha, a 71-year-old woman from Arizona. Energetic and vibrant, she was active in her church, volunteered at the local community center, and proudly followed a healthy lifestyle. No junk food, no canned goods. She even cooked every meal at home. Her breakfast was nearly the same every day: 2 boiled eggs and a cup of black coffee. Yet one morning, she woke up feeling dizzy, with a slight tremor in her hand, and her speech was unusually slow. Her daughter rushed her to the hospital. The diagnosis: Martha had experienced a mild stroke, a warning stroke. No one saw it coming, not even her. When I asked about her diet, she said, "I don't eat salty food. I avoid frying. I thought I was doing everything right." And she wasn't wrong. But she also wasn't completely right. Eggs, though nutritious, contain 0 fiber. When eaten without vegetables, whole grains, fruits, or legumes, your digestive system runs with no support. And fiber is far more than a digestive aid. It's a silent guardian of your heart and brain. It stabilizes blood sugar, helping prevent dizziness after waking. It reduces absorption of bad cholesterol, keeping your blood thinner and flowing more freely. It feeds gut bacteria, those microscopic allies that help regulate blood pressure and reduce inflammation. Without fiber in the morning, blood gets thicker, heart strain increases, and with your brain's blood vessels already expanding to wake up, the risk becomes clear. Especially for those on blood pressure meds, diuretics, or those who sleep poorly. The chance of a pressure drop or blockage rises even more. After her ER visit, Martha made a simple change. Still 2 eggs, but now with a slice of whole grain toast, some avocado, a few banana slices, or a spoonful of oats, and always starting with a glass of warm water. Nothing fancy, just enough fiber to protect her aging vascular system. She once told me, "I didn't know the thing I was missing was something so simple. I thought I was doing enough." And you know what? So many people feel the same, until the brain no longer gives them a second chance. If you're still starting your day with eggs and nothing else, then tomorrow just add a little fiber. Not to make your plate prettier, but to gently ease the flow of blood that's working hard to keep your whole body alive. There's a phrase I often hear from older patients: "If I feel fine and I'm still active, I must be okay." And another one: "I eat eggs every morning. Eggs are good for you." It sounds reasonable, but unfortunately, your brain and blood vessels don't respond to how you feel. They respond to what you feed them and to how your body has quietly changed after 60. Ben was a textbook example, a 66-year-old Navy veteran living in Florida. Fit, sharp-minded, still fixing fences and mowing his lawn every week. He once told me proudly, "3 eggs every morning. Sometimes 4 on Sundays keeps me sharp and strong." But one morning, his wife called 911 after finding him sitting silently at the breakfast table. His eyes were open, but he couldn't speak. Ben had suffered a moderate ischemic stroke. He wasn't completely paralyzed, but his speech became slurred, and his right hand trembled for weeks afterward. When I reviewed his labs, I wasn't surprised. LDL high, triglycerides high, total cholesterol above safe limits, and the most concerning part, he had no idea. He hadn't had a checkup in over 2 years. I don't blame him. Many men his age do the same, assuming that feeling good means everything's fine. And because eggs are natural, nutrient-rich, they assume eating more must be safe. But they forget that eggs, especially the yolk, contain cholesterol. About 125 millimoles per egg. Someone with great metabolism, healthy vessels, and stable blood pressure might tolerate that. But if you already have high blood pressure, prediabetes, or early vascular damage, each egg is like another brick added to the wall of plaque forming in your arteries. The problem isn't eggs, it's unconsciously eating too many, without realizing your body has changed, without knowing your cholesterol, without realizing your stroke risk may be climbing silently each morning. Ben told me at his first follow-up. If I had known my blood numbers were that high, I would have eaten differently. I wouldn't have been so careless. And I believe he meant it. But here's the hard truth. Not everyone gets a second chance to walk back into the clinic. Some collapse on their very first warning sign. No symptoms, no heads up, just a morning like any other. And then, life is never the same again. If you're eating eggs every day, ask yourself one simple question. Do I know my cholesterol, blood pressure, and stroke risk? If not, get checked. Because what you don't know may cost you your speech, your memory, or even your ability to take care of yourself. Eggs can still be part of your breakfast, but only if you truly understand what your body needs and what it can no longer handle. You don't have to give up eggs, but you do need to learn how to eat them so they don't give up on you. After everything we've discussed, you might be thinking, so I have to stop eating my favorite breakfast food. Not at all. I'm not here to take away the joy of a soft-boiled egg in the morning. I'm here to help you enjoy it safely, wisely, and in a way that supports a brain that's aging a little more each day. I once treated a woman named Helen, 76 years old, a retired librarian from a small town in Oregon. She came to my clinic after her daughter noticed some concerning changes, forgetting the names of common household items, repeating herself, and occasionally freezing mid-sentence. No alcohol, no smoking. She even had what most people would call a clean diet. But her brain MRI told a different story. Small areas of the brain had begun to show damage from poor circulation. And one of the overlooked culprits, her perfect breakfast, 2 fried eggs with cheese, a slice of white bread, and a little salt every single day for the past 10 years. So we didn't cut things out. We shifted. Step 1. I suggested she switch from frying to boiling or poaching. No oils, no fats, no high heat to alter the cholesterol structure in the yolk. This way, she preserved the protein and avoided the artery-damaging oxidized fats created during pan frying. Step 2. I guided her to pair eggs with fiber-rich foods, whole grain toast instead of white bread, avocado instead of cheese, a few strawberries or blueberries to accompany the plate, and most importantly, always start the day with a glass of water. Not long after, Helen told me, I didn't have to sacrifice flavor, I just had to learn to love my body better. And she was absolutely right. You can still enjoy eggs, but you need to know your limits. For older adults, especially those with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or diabetes, the general safe range is 4 to 6 eggs per week, balancing both whites and yolks. If you're also eating other high cholesterol foods, like organ meats, shrimp, or shellfish, you may need to cut back further. And if you're not sure how much you should be eating, it's simple. Get tested, not to scare yourself, but to take control. You can't care for your brain if you're eating in the dark. You might also consider egg whites. They're cholesterol-free, rich in protein, and now widely available in convenient liquid forms, perfect for older adults with delicate blood vessels or a history of stroke. Eggs aren't bad. In fact, they're incredibly nutritious when eaten with understanding. That wisdom doesn't come from rumors or old habits. It comes from listening to your body, to your numbers, and to the voice inside you that wants to keep living clearly, fully, and well. It's not the egg itself. It's how you see it, understand it, and use it that can protect your brain. If you've made it this far, I believe you're not just learning about breakfast. You're doing something far more valuable. You're looking back at your habits through the eyes of someone who understands that after 60, the body is no longer the same. You may have believed 1 egg every morning is healthy. A little ham or cheese won't do any harm. A simple, clean meal is enough to stay strong, and I don't blame you. Because no one ever told you that brain blood vessels become thinner and more fragile after 60. That blood pressure can spike in the morning without warning. That just a pinch of salt, a slice of sausage, a little repeated daily, can become a silent flood, washing away your clarity, your speech, your memory, and your independence. I've met too many people who once said, "I'm doing fine," until the day they couldn't hold a spoon, couldn't remember their loved ones' names, couldn't get up from the very bed they never imagined they'd be stuck in. But the saddest part isn't the stroke itself. It's when they look at me and say, "If only I had known sooner." If only they knew they didn't need to give up eggs, just change how they ate them. If only they realized that a cholesterol test every 6 months matters more than any superfood. If only they understood that adding a slice of whole grain toast, skipping a piece of ham, or swapping cheese for avocado might have preserved their memory for years longer. Right now you're standing at a simple crossroads. Continue eating by old habits, or start eating the way your brain needs at this stage of life. You don't have to change everything today. Just start tomorrow morning. Try boiling your eggs instead of frying. Add a spoonful of oats, a handful of greens, a glass of water. And if you don't know your cholesterol or blood pressure, get checked. Not for anyone else, but for you. For the memories you want to hold on to. For the mornings you still want to greet with clarity beside your grandkids. Because a stroke doesn't knock on the door. It walks right in when you least expect it. But you can lock that door with small, smart, timely changes. Don't let a harmless breakfast be the last thing you clearly remember. Let it be the beginning of a clearer, healthier, more empowered future. One that honors all the miles you've already walked in this life. And if there's one takeaway from this article, one small habit you're inspired to change, share it with me. Because what you do tomorrow might just inspire someone who hasn't made the change today.